Alright, so the first one that I had was a 28 over x squared plus x minus 12. And so yes, we can break this up into 28 over x minus 3 and x plus 4 just by factoring the denominator. What partial fraction decomposition is saying is what we can do is we can break these up into two fractions by saying I need some a value, some constant on top, and some constant on top over here. And that's when we have linear factors. So just x minus 3. So how we can find out what a and b are so we can break it up into these two fractions, because that is our goal, is we combine them, right? We're kind of working backwards. I'm going to find the common denominator. So on this one, I would have to multiply top and bottom by an x plus 4. On this one over here, to get the common denominator, I'd have to multiply it by x minus 3 on top and bottom. So now what I have is I have ax plus a4, I'm going to make that 4a, plus bx minus 3b on top. Because now I have that common denominator of x minus 3 and x plus 4. So, initially recall that we just had a 28 up top. So what that means is when I add up my x terms, ax plus bx, that this, I don't have any x terms. So when I add up my a plus my b, my coefficients for my x terms, I should get a 0. Right? Because when I add these up, the ax and bx, I want to get 0x. So a plus b would equal 0. For the 4a minus 3b, that represents my constant, and my constant is 28. So what we have here now is a systems of equations that we can solve. You can solve them graphically, you can solve them substitution, you can solve them by elimination. I'm going to do this one by elimination real quick, and I'd probably multiply the top by, let's just say I multiply the top one by a positive 3. So that would give me 3a plus 3b equals, and 0 times 3 is 3. On the bottom I had 4a minus 3b. So 4a minus 3b, and that equaled 28. So by elimination, I add up my columns and I get 7a equals 28, a equals 4 when I divide both sides by 7. If I know a is 4, I would probably just take this one right here and substitute. If a is 4, what would b have to be? Well, b would have to be negative 4. Because a plus b equals 0. And I know that a was positive 4. So now I can finally rewrite my rational expression as the sum of two rational expressions. So my a was 4, I think that was over my x minus 3, and my b was negative 4, and that's over my x plus 4. And that would be your answer. There was another one that I'm going to get you set up on. It was a 6x minus 45 over x minus 7 squared. So on this one, if we are going to split it up, it wouldn't be x minus 7 and x minus 7. Common mistake. I mean, it would have to be one of them would be squared, one of our fractions. So we have the linear and then the linear squared. So over here I'd have a and here I'd have b. And that's how I'm breaking these two things up. now to find the common denominator, I would just have to multiply this piece over here by another x minus 7. And when I do that, I'd get ax minus 7a plus b on top. So now I have my, I can set up my systems of equations. Because this is my only x term, so I know that a equals, well, what did my x term equal? 6. Sweet. Right? So it's 6. And I also know that negative 7a plus b equals my constant, which was that negative 45. And if I know a equals 6, I could probably pretty easily solve for b. So if a is 6, that gives me negative 42 plus b equals negative 45. Add 42 to the other side, I get b equals negative 3. So now I could write down my answer, because I know that a is 6 and b is negative 3. And so if my a is 6, 6 over x minus 7, my b was negative 3, x minus 7 squared. So I guess I did that one. Let's look at one more. And again, I'll try just to set this one up. This one's a little meatier. It has something that, this was my number 4. 4x squared minus 3x plus 1 over x squared plus 5x minus 6. Now, this one is an improper form because the numerator is larger than the denominator. I have a larger degree on top. To do the partial fraction decomposition, we want to have a proper fraction, so a smaller degree on top than the bottom. So what we would have to do first is we would have to divide. We'd have to divide these things. And when I do that, I'd probably use a long division, would be my path. So that's a skill that we learned in the last chapter. So what do I have to multiply x squared by to get the x cubed? And that would be an x. So I multiply everything by x. X cubed plus 5x squared minus 6x. And then in long division we subtract. So that would give me a negative x squared and then a plus 3x, because negative 3x minus a negative 6x plus 6x. So negative 3x plus 6x is 3x. Bring down my next term. And what would I have to multiply x squared by to get this negative x squared? Well, that would just be a minus 1. And I do that, and I get negative x squared. Again, this negative 1's get multiplied by everything over here. Minus 5x plus 6. And then I subtract stuff. And when I do that, when I subtract things, I'm actually going to get 8x